Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about tools. Alright, let's start talking about the basics. This tool right here. Its last name, screwdriver. Its first name is Phillips. I don't know if my camera is going to focus on it, but it's got a point with 4 grooves and it's called a Phillips head. Now they can come in a bunch of different sizes. This is a size 2. They can be size 1, which is smaller, and size 3, which is larger. All I have right now on me are size 2s. This type of screwdriver, it's called a flathead. All right, that's another type of screwdriver that's out there. And another very common one, like I have on this set on my wall, shaped like a star, but they call them Torx. T-O-R-X. And this one I don't have my glasses on it, but I believe this is what's called a T30. But if you guys work on a lot of electric equipment, they use a lot of Torx fasteners. Like T2s, T3s, like if you work on iPads, things like that. Your controllers for your PlayStation, probably put together with Torx. Now this is a great screwdriver to keep in your toolbox. Now this is a very expensive one. This is one I bought years ago from Snap-on, but you could buy cheap ones at Harbor Freight. And what's great about them is if you keep them in your car, you could probably keep every type of screwdriver on there. Here's a flathead on it. So if you open up the back handle, I have some Phillips. I got like a size 1 Phillips I was talking about. I got a size 2. I could probably find one laying around somewhere. It would be a size 3. I got a Torx in there, a T20, a T10, a T15, the most common Torx ones, because a lot of your car interior parts are put together with Torx bits. And it's great because you just pull the one out you don't need, put another one in it, and you don't have to have a bag with 100 screwdrivers in it. Alright, so now let's talk about ratchets. So here's the smallest size ratchet. And how they name them is by the size of the drive. So the drive is the square that the sockets fit on. So this is the smallest one, called a quarter. This is the next size up. So this is for really tiny bolts. All right, you don't want to put a lot of torque to them that you snap them. And this is for the next size up, 3/8. So 3/8. And then our next size that's common in the automotive field is this size, which is 1/2 inch. Now there's other sizes, like you start working on big trucks. There's 3/4 and 1 inch. And then we have some specialty ratchets, like this is a 1/2 inch drive, but I could also make it bigger. Kind of like this one, works pretty good. And then this one I just got replaced a week ago. It's Craftsman. It's got a flex head on it. I had a flex head ratchet that I was working on my Camaro over here, and I wound up breaking it. The ratchet was 30 years old, and I wound up going to Lowe's, and they gave me a replacement, brand new. Same thing. So here's another old Craftsman ratchet. I went to Sears, I guess, about a year ago or less, probably only 6 months ago, when they were still open, when they were going out of business, and the gears inside were broken, and they took it apart and gave me a new gear assembly. And then we have some specialty ratchets. Now this one's got all kinds of measurements on it. So torque is a measurement of turning force. So how much force we put on a bolt. Now this is for really small light stuff, like doing small engines. This is called inch pounds. Inch pounds of torque. And then we have this big one, foot pounds of torque. And I'll show you guys a video on how to set all this up. But what they do, why they call it foot pounds, is if I have 1 foot away from my wrench and I hung 20 pounds of weight on it, that would be giving me 20 foot-pounds of force of torque on my nut. So let's now talk about wrenches. So here's a wrench. It's got an open end, it's got a box end. And when they're both on the same wrench, it's called a combination wrench. Now on this wrench, it's got a 1. What that stands for is 1 inch. This opening here is 1 inch. All right, so that system though is called standard. So when things are like in a fraction, Like here's another small combination wrench. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. The longer the wrench, the more torque you can get. By the way, if you ever are getting a bolt off, you use the box end first to break it loose because you have 6 points of contact. Never use the open end because it's only got 2 points of contact and you'll strip the bolt. Like if we look at the small one, it says 1 1/16, so that's a fraction. So it's 1 inch and a 16th in that opening. Here's another combo wrench. Now on this one, it says 18 millimeters. So the measurement from here to here is 18 millimeters. It's got a flex end, but what's great about this, it's got a ratchet. This is one of the best inventions ever. So you break it loose, and instead of taking it off and putting it back on, you just ratchet. It makes work so much faster. These are great wrenches. You guys that are going to get into trades, I don't mean to do a commercial, but these gear wrench ratchets are the best. I love them. And then sometimes we have what's called an offset box wrench. This is also made to like create space, get into places that you usually can't get at. So those are some of your common wrenches, some information for you to know about that. And then the other day I was telling you guys about this tool. This is something you might want to keep in your car. You want to keep a vice grip, or they call it a locking plier. All right, so how we use this is that these jaws are adjustable with this screw. So right now my screw falls out. So if I want my screw to stay in, I tighten this a little bit. I get a grip on it. I keep tightening it until I get, I don't know, about 2.5, 3 inches of space. And then it will hold my object in place. But I usually don't use these to take bolts on and off with. I use it for like doing sheet metal work when I'm welding. I got a bunch of these that are for doing sheet metal work and body work, and doing shaping and things like that. So Vice Grip is actually a company. It's a brand name. But everybody thinks when someone says Vice Grip, this is the tool they look at. So if you're working with Dad or an electrician, they tell you get a Vice Grip, and you go to the toolbox and you grab this tool, locking pliers. All right, so something you guys are going to learn in the shop one day is some power tools. Air gun, very common tool. You're going to use it all the time to take tires on and off. This one runs on air compressed air. I have another one here that runs on a battery pack. I like this tool, but it doesn't make nearly as much turning force torque as this one. But they have to be used with specialty sockets. You don't want to use the regular chrome sockets like I have here. You want to use these black sockets, which are called impact sockets. They're heat treated differently, that they're not going to crack as easy as a chrome one. They could still crack, but they won't crack as easy. I can't tell you how many of these I've shattered. What else do I got here? So we have these types of sockets. We come across these a lot doing brakes, and these are Torx. We got some Torx in here, and then we have some six-sided ones that we call Allens. Now you probably heard of Allen keys. These are Allen sockets, and once again, these come in two different systems also, metric and standard. So cars made after 1977 are metric. Cars before 1977 are standard. So this car here that I have is a 71, standard stuff. This tool right here, it is called an extension. Sometimes things are really low in the car. You need to put an extension on it, and you put a socket on it so you can get into spots that are really hard to get at. I use extensions all the time. Another great tool. Now when I'm building engines, I use this tool a lot. So like say I'm putting a cylinder head on, I'll put a socket on it, I'll run them all down snug before I use my torque wrench. It's called a speed wrench. And once again, these come in different sizes. Like I have a 1/2 inch drive one right here hanging on my wall, and I have a 3/8 drive one right here in my hand. This tool right here is just for moving objects. This is called a pry bar. I've had kids think this is a screwdriver. Pry bar. Needle nose pliers. Now here's another one. This is actually made by Craftsman, but a lot of people, what they call these are channel locks. Channel locks, once again, is a company that makes pliers, and they make great pliers. Awesome pliers. So if I'm gonna buy tools for myself, I usually try to buy vice grips, and I buy channel lock pliers. Here's another tool you might see around your house if your dad's a plumber. It's called a monkey wrench. This is for turning pipe. Here's another tool we use around the shop for taking tie rod ends off, or cutting sheet metal, or if we're trying to take a spot weld off. This is called a air hammer, another great tool. Dad ever says get me a pair of pliers, this is the tool he's talking about. Slip joint pliers. So that's a pair of pliers. This tool right here, wire stripper. It can do many things on it. It's got a wire cutter on it. It's got a spot on it to strip the wire to expose the copper. Wire strippers. Here's a wire cutter, or they call them side dikes for cutting wire. These come in handy too if we're doing suspension work and we need to remove cotter pins. Got a hammer here. This hammer we use a lot in the automotive field, called a ball peen hammer. This is the ball peen right here. Sometimes they use it sometimes if they got to peen over a rivet, and this is our hammering side. Use this a lot for getting stuck rims off, stuck rotors, taking tie rod ends off. And then we have this hammer that we really do not use in the automotive field at all, but just since a lot of you guys are getting into the trade, this is either called a claw hammer, or some people call it a carpenter's hammer. Specialty socket, swivel socket. A lot of times you can't get right on the bolt, so you use this in combination with an extension. You might have your ratchet all the way up here for like getting bell housing bolts off a car. We use this tool quite often. And for today, I think that is enough information for you guys. All right, I'll talk to you soon.